PTG Daily with Joey Pucks, and it is Friday, April 10th, 2020. We are underway for the third installment of this series here, and good response so far, which has been good. And don't forget, if you forget about the live stream or you missed the live stream and you're looking to catch up, you can go over to the YouTube page there and get it. The link to the YouTube page is down below. You can go catch up on past episodes at your convenience. So today's agenda, another non-shocker. We're starting with Valorant once again. It is it's the game du jour. Everyone's talking about it. Everybody's watching it, and have some thoughts the third day in a row on that, and we're going to follow that story as we go through. The other thing is we will get to some Destiny 2 talk as well, and some industry news and notes. I've got some thoughts on Destiny 2. You know, we recorded the Playing the Game podcast, which episode 44 released this morning. And as part of that, when we finished the episode, we ended up going off air and then started up this whole conversation on Destiny 2 and trials and sort of the state of the game and who's playing and why would you still play. And, I kind of reserve comment because, for the most part, I just am at the point where Destiny is just not appealing to me anymore, and rather than be the guy that is always just getting on and just, bagging on Destiny and, bagging on Bungie, just like, I can't do it. And then I thought about it over the last couple of days and thought, you know what, well, let's do it on Friday. Trials will be kicking off again this weekend, and I can get some thoughts on the game out there in its current state. And and that'll probably be it. I mean, to the extent there are news and notes about the game that I think are worth discussing and mentioning, we'll bring that up. But I really am not into kind of turning this into just a daily Destiny or Bungie bash session. So this will kind of probably be one of the few times for the foreseeable future where I at least initiate the Destiny discussion. But let's talk about Valorant a little bit, because this game is still blowing up, and actually right now I'll tell you that it currently has. If I pop open this tab here, I got like 3 computers going. So if I pop open the tab, let's see, 1.2 million viewers on Twitch right now. So the mission has been accomplished from Riot Games and from Twitch in terms of getting awareness about the game up and folks trying to get beta keys. And over the last couple of days, we've talked about the I think ingenuity of that marketing plan of the beta release and the method that they're using to do it. Today, I want to focus on some of the content creators and the streamers, because I think I've seen a couple of interesting issues emerging from this. The first is, there's an interesting kind of, dichotomy going on. You have streamers who are known for playing other games that are trying to get into the game and want to play the game because they are enjoying the game, they're having fun in the beta, and they want to continue to do that. They like who they're playing with and so forth. And as a content creator and as a streamer on the high end, one of the things you're balancing is, playing games you want to play, and the notion of audience retention, playing games that people want to see you play. What's an analogy of this? What I'm trying to describe? Let's take a professional basketball player, for example. People want to see a professional basketball player play basketball. If that guy all of a sudden decides to change it up and go play a different sport, now there might be some novelty associated with that and people will be interested. But if you're getting paid to play effectively a particular game and you just decide, well, I'm going to go play a different game instead, people may not care as much about that. And they might not really care all that much that you prefer the other sport. They like to see you do the thing that you're best at, or the sport that they like to watch. So, I've seen a few tweets about this. Tanner Slays is a guy, he's a TSM guy that I saw on Twitter, basically saying people have been coming into the chat and complaining about him playing Valorant, and he's having fun playing the game. And, he's caught in this situation, like I think a lot of other content creators and streamers are, of Do I play the game that I want to play, which is Valorant, or do I play another game that people want to watch me play? And I've maybe built my audience around. I've built my community around a game like Fortnite or Apex Legends. So it's an interesting situation, I think, for these folks to find themselves in. And I suspect, I don't know how long this beta is going to go on. I suspect what will happen. Well, just this will be an ongoing issue, and some streamers and content creators are going to lose a portion of their audience if they decide, hey, I really like playing this game, and I will continue to play it. And then maybe they'll pick up some other new community members and audience folks because they are interested in the game, and they like them as a streamer and as a content creator. So it's just an interesting set of circumstances. And I have to imagine that, I mean, look, I personally do not get paid to play a particular video game. So I get to play what I want, when I want, But I think if you're one of these content creators, that thought is always in your mind. Do you make the personal decision and play the game you want to play, or do you make the more business-oriented decision? You happen to be really good at a particular game. Do you play that game, even if maybe you don't enjoy it anymore? I mean, think of these guys and girls who've been playing. Let's just use Fortnite as the example, because they've been playing Fortnite for 2-3 years now. I mean, at some point you have to experience some level of burnout, and the rest of us are able to, we get burned out of a game and we can just decide, hey, you know what? I'm done here for now. I will go play whatever the heck I want to play. I don't have to worry about, whether I'm going to lose a viewer, or I'm going to lose a sub or followers. You just have that freedom to do whatever you want in terms of what games you play and who you play with. But on the flip side of it, this is content creation and gaming and esports. It's big business now. As we see every day, deals are getting done and people are getting paid a lot of money, and people are paying a lot of money. It's lucrative. So you have to also take into account the business angle of things and be smart about it. And that may mean you play a game that you're really not thrilled about playing. And it may mean that you play a game that you're not really thrilled about playing for a really long time. It's funny. I always think of Curtis Martin, who's a Hall of Fame running back, played in the NFL, played for the Patriots, played for the Jets. Curtis Martin actually doesn't like football all that much, which I always have found fascinating. He does not like the game of football, and it's well-known fact. He doesn't like the game of football, but it was what he was best at, and he built a Hall of Fame career out of it. And, sometimes you gotta go to the mines. You gotta put your hard hat on. You gotta go to work and do your thing, even if it's something that you're, maybe not in love with, because it happens to be what you're best at. And that's not really an enviable position. Now, I think a lot of people out there, they really don't love their job. They tolerate it, and it pays the bills. It supports them and their families. You got to do what you got to do, hands down, right? But just think about that for a second. Absolutely disliking the thing that you're best at and what makes all the rest of things possible. I think it's an issue that a lot of professionals have to deal with. Lawyers and finance folks and down the line. Where you're going to work 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. You're maybe not super happy about it, but you recognize hey, this is what I'm best at, and this is what pays the bills. And so streamers and content creators, I think, are really no different. If you're doing it at a high level. If you're doing it professionally, you really don't have as much flexibility, I would say, as someone who just picks up games, puts games down, doesn't have to worry about audience retention and analytics and figuring out when to stream, when to release videos, what topics to cover, which games to play, which games to avoid. There's a certain element of business that comes into it that you just really you can't avoid if you want to maintain that level that you're playing or producing content at. The other interesting thing that has come out of this is just I think people need to understand that Valorant is yeah, it might be a combination of a few different games, but it really is growing out of a CS:GO, a Counter-Strike, foundation, and what that means is that Valorant is not Fortnite, it's not Apex Legends, it's not Call of Duty, it's not a lot of the other first-person shooters out there, and that requires a certain degree of teamwork and communication, and the style of play is different, and the skill set that lets you succeed in a game like CS:GO and now Valorant is not necessarily the same skill set that lets you succeed in other games. And I've seen some rumblings on Twitter, I mean, more than rumblings, just high level players in other games coming out basically saying, like, what do I have to do? Help me to get better at this game. And Cypher is a guy that comes to mind on that front. He's a big Fortnite guy. Plays at a high level. I don't believe he competes professionally, but plays at a very high level. Straight up on Twitter asking, like, what do I need to do? I want to get in as many hours of, he was referring to Counter-Strike. I don't know, frankly, why he wouldn't just play Valorant, but be that as it may, he was basically saying, how can I improve my CS:GO game to then translate that over, into Valorant? This is a guy that plays another game at a very high level, but recognizing that what makes him very, very, very good at Fortnite isn't translating over. So he needs to do some work. I've been watching over the last couple of days Nadeshot, former professional Call of Duty player, 100 Thieves co-owner, 1.2 million followers on Twitch. Been watching him play Valorant, and there are games where he'll admit he has struggled, and asking the guys he's playing with, some of whom I take it are kind of high level CS:GO guys, like help me, like what do I need to do to improve my game? And that's interesting, because I think a lot of people maybe assume that all these high end players, they'll just go from game to game and just quickly pick it up and be in the top 0.1%. And I think what we're seeing here is that might be true for some players, and certainly players with a background in Counter-Strike maybe have a leg up, but it's not necessarily going to be the fact that you're an excellent Call of Duty player will automatically make you to be an excellent Valorant player. So I think it's been a humbling experience for some of these players. I think that some of them are going to really lean into it and really want to improve and find out what they can do to improve. And they're like the rest of us when it comes to, I mean, I've picked up Counter-Strike over the last week or so, and I'm watching videos, I'm reading Reddit posts, I'm reading articles online, I'm picking the brains of the guys that play CS:GO at a much higher level than me, saying, hey, what should I be doing here? What do you think of this? How does this work? How does that work? Like down to basics, like, what guys got any aiming tips for me? What about positioning? So all of these things that we're wrestling with as just regular players, high level, former professionals, content creators that are name brands are also dealing with. And I think that's a very interesting development. And I think that, where I was going with that was, I think you're going to see some of them lean into it and do what needs to be done to really improve. And you're going to see others that just, they can't do it and they can't make the jump. They can't switch over, and they're going to put the game down. And kind of wave the white flag. So, that is going to be interesting. And if Valorant really does become the game, right? I mean, I don't necessarily know that it will. I don't know that Valorant is all of a sudden going to become, the next CS:GO. I don't know that it necessarily ends up being, on the level of Fortnite, or any of these other high-end games. It looks like it will, but we don't know for sure. But, and if you're a content creator in that game, and all of a sudden you're no longer playing like, the most popular game, like, again, what does that mean from a business perspective? I mean, that's something that I'm sure these players are also thinking about, because there's pressure. It's like, you feel like you got to be really good at the game that a lot of people want to watch. And that's an interesting, point to think about, where, esports and gaming, they're not as necessarily consistent, I guess, as traditional sports, purely based on it's a temporal thing, right? I mean, esports have been around for, let's call it 20 years, 25 years, and, not esports like we think of today, but just like competitive gaming, right? And really only recently has it really come into its own and hit its stride. But baseball and football and hockey and basketball and soccer and all these other traditional sports have been around for decades, for 100 years. Whereas in esports and in gaming, being a great FPS player could mean a lot of things. It could mean that you're great at Counter-Strike. It could mean you're great at Halo. It could mean you're great at Call of Duty. It can mean you're great at any other game, and but not necessarily good at any of the others. And so, these different, you see with Call of Duty, right? You see that as the new installments come back, you tend to see the same names over and over again. The game is generally consistent in that respect, but I guess what I would say is that it's more like you might find yourself in a position where the game you're playing and that you're really good at may not be the game that people actually want to watch. It may not be the game that people will pay to watch. It may not be a viable game if you're looking to develop a brand, if you're looking to, to do content creation and to game on a competitive pro level. And that's interesting. I mean, some games like CS:GO, for example, has been around for quote unquote, like forever in terms of like, esports. It's all relative, right? But like Apex Legends, I mean, it's been hot, but then, this whole coronavirus thing happens and majors are getting canceled and players start jumping ship, and now Valorant's out, and a lot of these players think like, hey, I can jump over there and be really successful. I mean, what's the competitive, environment for Apex Legends going to look like 2, 3, 6 months from now, 12 months from now? I mean, even look at Halo, which really paved the way for the competitive console way of things, and MLG, and now Halo is, I mean, I'm hoping Halo Infinite's good, but you wouldn't think of Halo as a really an esport at this point. It's just not on the same level. I mean, look at a game like Destiny, where some guys are playing this at a very high level and playing in tournaments, but they're playing tournaments for $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. I mean, and then you've got Fortnite offering up, prize pool like 100 million. So it's just a different league. It's an entirely different league. It's a different ecosystem, different environment. And speaking of Destiny, like, if you're one of these guys, I mean, look at a guy like Panda, right? Great player. He might be the best Destiny 2 player going right now. This kid is unbelievable. And he's stuck playing in like $2,000 tournaments for Destiny. And you're like, oh man, I mean, this guy was playing a different game. I mean, who knows? Who knows? I mean, he's pulling 1,000 viewers on Twitch for Destiny 2, playing in these tournaments for what is comparatively peanuts. If he were excelling at that level in a game like CS:GO or whatever Valorant becomes, or some other game. Call of Duty, and the CDL, or even a game like Overwatch. The sky's the limit for this guy. He's got such technical ability, but he's stuck playing. It's like being like the world's best. I don't know. Pick your favorite obscure sport, like being like the world's best professional lacrosse player. I mean, that's great, but people aren't paying to watch that, and it's tough to earn a living doing that, compared to being the best basketball player in the world, So it's an interesting set of circumstances. All right, so we've gone for about 20 minutes now. I didn't necessarily think that was going to go where it did, but we segued right into Destiny, and I'll just comment here a little bit on Destiny. I do want to get to some news and notes, but the state of the game. I've been an avid Destiny player for the last 5+ years, but it's just gotten to the point where I can't do it anymore. I can't. The state of the game from a PvE perspective is not great right now in terms of new content, and they're basically taking content and mechanisms and reskinning them and throwing these seasonal activities and events that effectively amount to doing the same thing over and over again, just under the under a different presentation method. You know, it kind of can't do it on that front. And the PvP has been really unstable. The you know, the matchmaking, connection-based matchmaking it has not worked. People are getting disconnected from games regularly, and just makes the game really, really unenjoyable. And it's just gotten to the point where it's like, how many times are we going to do the same old thing? You know, from my perspective, I'm curious as to, like, you know, who's really still playing the game and having fun. I guess if you're just getting into the game and you haven't been playing it for 5 years, your experience is going to be different. And I guess there was a Bungie forum post from someone, you know, official, basically saying, like, we're recognizing that there's a disparity in the experience for new players versus players who've been at this for 5+ years, and we gotta kind of figure out how to keep those 5+ year players interested in the game. I mean, if it's all new to you, then yeah, I mean, it's great. It's similar to the Division. You know, level 1 through 30. Absolute great experience. The end game is where the game falls apart. So, you know, I don't know who's really still playing the game, you know, to the extent they've been playing the game. You know, so you're not a new player. You've been at this for a while. You know, I'm curious about what degree of enjoyment you're getting out of the game. Playing, you know, Bounty Simulator just doesn't seem like it's all that fun for me, and I don't want to do it. And I'm not going to do it. And then, you know, a game like Destiny has historically been able to keep me engaged with its PvP experience, but that has gone in the crapper. It you know, it just, you know, playing competitive matches, 2v3, 1v3, 3v3, but then, you know, someone drops because of a networking issue. It's just a very frustrating experience. And, you know, there's only so many hours in the day, and we're dealing with a whole lot of stuff. I can't have that be my experience. You know, I can't want to throw my computer out the window because I can't, like, get a match. And so it's very frustrating. But, you know, it seems like the cycle continues, you know, in terms of, you know, Bungie and Destiny, you know, not getting it right. Then they do something that's like a home run, you know, Whisper of the Worm mission, you know, just use a Destiny 2 example. Okay. There were examples of this in, you know, Destiny 1, but, you know, they'll do something really, 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 really well. And, you know, it's like, you know, you're constantly bickering and fighting with your spouse, you know, but then someone steps up and, you know, does something nice for the other person, you know, and for a brief period, you're like, yes, this is exactly why I you know, fell in love with this person, right? And it's all good. But that lasts for so long, and then you kind of go back to the old ways. And it just seems like, you know, that's the cycle. And just the more I thought about it, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I can't do this anymore, at least not right now. I can't constantly be frustrated by different elements of the game. And I can't, you know, hope that there's going to be some, you know, nugget that comes out of this where I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. This is why I play Destiny. And that'll be good for a little bit. And then I'm going to, you know, there'll be a relapse back to, like, which direction is the game going? Why are we having issues? You know, I don't know. I am not 100% convinced that Bungie understands its own game inside and out from a player's perspective. And the reality is that no two players are necessarily the same. There are a lot of different experiences that you can have in Destiny. And there are a lot of different types of players that play Destiny. But I honestly don't believe that Bungie has a very good handle on every single person's, you know, perspective in the game. You know, and it's not an easy job, but it's their job. You know, I'm a lawyer, right? Client comes to me asking for help, asking for advice, asking me to solve problems that a lawyer, you know, should be able to solve and figure out. And that's what Bungie's job is. Bungie is a game developer. You know, it's their job to figure this stuff out. And all the Reddit posts in the world are nice, and all the suggestions are nice, and Bungie's going to take those and put its own spin on it, because that's what Bungie does. And then people are going to, oh, well, you know, they're doing the best. Well, you know what? There are problems with the game. They need to solve the problems with the game. That's what their job is. That's what the people there are being paid for. That's why people are paying money, you know, purchasing their product. They expect that they're going to solve the game, solve the issues. That's their job. And I'm not going to call Bungie and ask for legal advice. And I don't expect Bungie is going to look to me to solve the issues with their game. They got to figure it out. I mean, look at Trials of Osiris. How they couldn't figure out that people would abuse the token system, you know, based on all the different factors. You can only buy stuff from Saint 14 that, you know, based on the number of wins you've had. So you get to 3 wins, you get the shotgun. This is going back to like week 2 or 3 now. You get the shotgun, and that's what's in your loot pool. Now, all of a sudden, oh, wait, no, do we think that people might just stop there, abuse the system, and just try to farm rolls? Well, look, I didn't think of that in the first 10 minutes. But then again, it's not my job to think of that in the first 10 minutes. And I'm not saying to think of it in the first 10 minutes, but again, like it's their job to think those types of issues through the same way that a medical professional is going to think medical issues through. That's what they're being paid to do. Do what you're supposed to be doing. They made this whole thing about, you know, we don't want to really, you know, we don't want to do this half cocked. We don't want to, you know, not stick to the landing. We don't want to do it half baked. You know, it's been 2 years. We want to do it right. And they didn't do it right. And the population for trials is, you know, it was at 360 week 1, 350. The guy sent me the numbers, you know, and it was down to like 270 or 275 this past, you know, weekend, you know, last weekend or whatever. You know, it's going down. It's going down. People are losing interest, and you know, and I don't know that that's going to necessarily recover. I don't know how necessarily to fix it, but you know, honestly, you know, I'm reluctant to be like overly critical because it's like, okay, this isn't my area of expertise. If you're going to say like, well, it's not my job to, you know, solve the problems, I'm not an expert, then, you know, okay, well then the critique has to kind of be tempered somewhat too. But, you know, you know, and people will say, well, you don't know what it's like to be a game dev, you know. Well, you're right, I don't. But the flip side to that is that these guys supposedly do, and they need to solve the issues. They need to think these things through. They need to come up with solutions because that's their job. It's not our job as players. It's not. And I will say, you know, kind of funny story I came across just kind of tying Valorant and Destiny. I guess there was a custom match that happened a couple of days ago between, on one hand, a bunch of Valorant developers, so folks over at Riot Games, and then they played some high-level, you know, CSGO players, some former pros. Let me get the list here. We've got Summit, who's been, I mean, this guy's been killing it on Twitch, 250,000, you know, viewers at times. Flom, I'm not terribly familiar with him. Shroud, okay. Dizzy, Skadoodle. So these are, you know, big name, you know, players, you know, sort of with CSGO backgrounds, and they're translating their skills very well over to Valorant. I guess I guess the devs just smoked them. They swept them. It was a best of 3. They won 2-0, 13-3, 13-2. Now, I mentioned that, you know, sort of in the Destiny conversation because, you know, pick the absolute best in-house Bungie devs. They get matched up against the best, you know, Destiny 2 players out there. They are getting absolutely stomped. Won't even be close. So, you know, it's... I jokingly said on Discord the other day, well, I guess not every dev, you know, is bad at its own game. You know, and when it comes to Destiny, I don't know. I've never been impressed by the gameplay that I've seen. And I get a lot of that is, you know, they're playing a certain way. They want to showcase the game in a certain way. So they're not necessarily playing the way that they would in a more competitive environment. But I've never been impressed by the folks I've seen in-house over there actually play their own game. And maybe that's part of the problem. You know, I don't know. All right, we're coming up on 30 minutes here. Let me switch over to some just some interesting news and notes. Two, I had 3. I'm probably just going to get to 2 here. The first thing is just an interesting article over via The Verge here about webcam shortages. Everybody's working from home. Webcams have become, you know, a scarce commodity, and the prices are going up. So, you know, it's a simple supply and demand, you know, concept. And as people are stuck working at home and doing video conferencing and, you know, Zoom and this and that and the other thing, you know, the price is going up. Now, this article here kind of screen caps some stuff. and it's looking like, webcams that were retailing, in that 125 to 135 or 140, price point or price range, are now selling for like 225, 230. It's just an interesting effect of this whole coronavirus situation that has come out of that. And it sounds like anything else, this is also being prone to abuse in some respects, price gouging. So Logitech can set its MSRP for its webcams, but it's up to the individual retailers to control the retail pricing. So it sounds your webcams, I'm sure, monitors, other peripheral devices that help people work from home, work remotely. There's been a run on those, and prices have gone up. The second thing is I wanted to get to FaZe Clan, who CS:GO, a lot of other games as well, just closed their latest funding round, and I guess the lead investor on that front was Jimmy Iovine, who you may know from Interscope Records. More just another example of a deal getting done in the gaming, entertainment, and esports space. An interesting quote here from Jimmy. He this is, I guess, via press release. I found this on Esports Insider. Excuse me, I can talk. But he quoted, his quote was, here, let me try to find it. Here we go. FaZe Clan is a very powerful pipeline into gaming culture. Their cultural impact reminds me of the early days of 90s hip hop. So just to give you sort of an insight as to how an investor like Jimmy Iovine is looking at esports and the whole entertainment via gaming and streaming ecosystem. So, pretty good. I guess their last round was closed in January. They did about a $22.5 million convertible loan facility. So, convertible loan, financing round is, you sell debt, you sell notes that convert into equity at a later date, typically at a discount for putting your money in, now, so they'll, convert it like, 80% or, 90%, that's all negotiated in individual deals. But, another interesting in development, point of note as money continues to get pumped into the esports, lifestyle brands and competitive brands and that sort of thing. So that's going to do it. No show tomorrow or Sunday. I'll be back on Monday right around 1 o'clock Eastern. Go check out youthegamers.com for gaming, esports, and other content. Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. We're on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok for You The Gamers, all at You The Gamers, UTHEGAMERS. And you can also find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Links to that are down below. And don't forget, if you miss an episode of PTG Daily, you can catch it on the YouTube channel. And don't forget to check out the PTG weekly podcast, Playing the Game, which I co-host with a couple of other guys. Episode 44 is now available. Apple, Spotify, Google, whatever you use. And I don't know, you might be 44 episodes behind now, so you might want to go check that out. So everybody have a great weekend, and I will see you Monday. I am out.